Yes, my name is Frank Rayo. I'm the digital marketing manager at Active Web Group, www.activewebgroup.com in Hauppauge, in the industrial park. We spent the past 3 weeks now going over all facets of digital marketing. We first talked about websites and branding. And then we talked about SEM and digital marketing in general. So I'm excited today to kind of bring it all together and talk about Google Analytics and how to look at your data. As I always said, data is king here. So our most important thing is looking at data, being able to analyze and understand it. If there's anything you take away from this is some of the vocabulary and how to initially look at your dashboard once it's set up. So we're going to do that. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a couple screen grabs of Google AdWords. I don't want to get too deep water into it. Obviously, there's a lot you could do there. And then we're going to look at Google Analytics in general. I'm going to show you a dummy account that I've created just for these purposes, so we could dive into that dashboard just a little bit more. And then from there, we're going to open it up to questions. I'd like to hear about your pain points, some of the things you have, some of the problems, concerns, things keeping you up at night. If you want me to look at your website and tear it apart, if you want me to quickly go in and diagnose some problems, let's chat about it. So without further ado, this is going to be our last presentation here. Okay, so this is understanding analytics and data. Now, I have these 2 slides up. I put these 2 slides up in just about every single presentation now. Just a little wink, wink, hint, hint. The vocabulary here is one of the most important takeaways. So I'm going to go over it again. You have sessions and users. So again, sessions and users are the amount of times a user or somebody, myself, viewing a website. So I've gone to target.com 16 times. So as a user, I'm one user. I've had 16 sessions. New and returning users. So I'm a first-time visitor versus someone who is a repeat customer. This might be important to you for various pursuits. Let's say you're working on a remarketing campaign in pay-per-click, one of those ads that follow you around on other websites, for example. Your returning visitors is going to be something you want to see spike up when you're doing a remarketing campaign, right? Your bounce rate, so people who quickly leave the website, X out, they don't spend any time on it. This could be important to you, as we talked about previously with web design. You could have a slow website. You could have things that just aren't speaking to them as a consumer. You can have things that aren't relevant in terms of your ad, so you don't have an appropriate landing page. There's plenty of problems or reasons for the bounce rate, but those are just a couple. Your average page load time, so how long does it take for an average page to load? Organic versus paid sessions. And again, there are other platforms too we're going to talk about momentarily, which we've talked about in the past as a reminder. But this is organic versus paid search. So you have your organic or SEO. I've organically searched for the term soft drinks, if you recall, versus a paid search. I Googled soft drinks and it came up as an ad. And top landing pages, whether your top landing page is visited. So that could be the /, which is just the homepage, which I'll show you in a bit. Or it could be an about us, plenty of different pages, contact us, shop now, if you're an e-commerce website. So plenty of different landing pages depending on what your pursuit. If you're obviously running, let's say, an email marketing campaign, or you're doing something special that you're driving to a unique landing page, I should see that in the top of the top 10. It should be 1 to 3 depending on what you're doing and how eclectic your campaign is overall. Okay, what are channels? Again, we've talked about channels a lot here, but you have your direct channel. So that's people visiting you via www.com. You have your organic, which is SEO. You have your paid, which is anything you paid for. This could be pay-per-click, Google, MSN, Bing. It could also be social media. So you're paying for social media marketing. Social media in general, this could be organic or it could also be paid, depending on how you set up your dashboard and your goal tracking. Referral, so people coming from outside search, or the SERPs as we call it. These are people coming from a directory, for example, like yellowpages.com, Angie's List, something to that degree, or something more proprietary. And then your email marketing, which is pretty straightforward. Okay, now let's talk about Google Analytics, or analytics in general. Now, our preferred method as digital marketers is to install Google Analytics. It's for 2 reasons. One, most search is predominantly done in Google nowadays. They dominate search. let me Google something, it just becomes part of the vocabulary now. It's not even a brand anymore. It's kind of like Kleenex. So with that being said, we set up a Google Analytics dashboard. There are other CMSs or CRMs that will have analytical data. If you do have something set up for your e-commerce efforts, right, you may have another set of tracking there. So Shopify, for example, has its own little cute dashboard where you could get numbers and metrics in real time. What you have to do is you have to make sure that it's matching up with the data you see in Google Analytics. I find that no two CMSs are going to report the exact same data. So Facebook is going to want to take credit for all of its unique campaigns, whereas your CRM might say something slightly different, whereas Google might say something different. I find that Google is as true to perceived actual traffic as you could possibly get. Now take that with a grain of salt, because you have to set up your dashboard properly and you have to set up your goals. We talked about goals. They could be your contact submit form. They could be a phone number, click to email. I mean, I hope that's not what you're doing, but a click to email. They could be e-commerce goals. So different areas I clicked on to get to the shopping cart, for example. So setting up your tiered goals are going to be important. Once you have those set up in analytics, it'll be pretty straightforward to track your goals. But let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about service layer data first. And I have screen grabs here. After I show you the screen grabs, I have a dummy account which we could kick back and forth, has no proprietary data on there on purpose. So we could just mess around with that dashboard and see what's going on there and how to click around. But service layer data. So this is your top level of Google when you first get into it. So this is your initial dashboard that you would have set up. And this is a real world client here. So when you first click on there, you're going to have your home screen. Your home screen, you're going to be able to scroll down. And again, I'm going to show you this momentarily when we click around. But you have your initial dashboard that you could set up in various ways. So whenever I work directly with a client, what I like to do is find out what they want to see from an analytic or reporting standpoint, right? What they want to see on the day-to-day. Because I'm going to send you a quarterly or a monthly report, right? Or whoever is doing your digital marketing, whether it be in-house or you're farming out or whatever you're doing, they should be showing you an analytical set, either monthly or quarterly, again, depending on your goals and what they look like. But if you want to check it on the day-to-day, you should have a dashboard set up. And no two goals are created equal. No two businesses are created equal. So your dashboard shouldn't really be, right? You should have stuff set up unique to you. And there's a lot of tools you could take and impart and set up in your dashboard. You shouldn't just let Google assume and do it for you. So in this case here, I wanted to see what it looks like the last 7 days. You could do it from different days within this carrot. You go up to 20 a month, etc. But you can see what's going on month over month from your audience view. And that gives you your users' sessions, your bounce rate, and your session duration, how long a user stayed on your website. How many users visited right now is important as an e-commerce website, right? You want to know real time what's going on your website, especially around now. We just got through Cyber Monday, right? So you want to see what's going on hour by hour. Then after that, you want to know what your traffic source is, right? Where are my users coming from? In this case, this is something that would go in your primary dashboard when you first click on it. You could always do a deeper dive with this stuff, which I'm going to get into. But you can find out what your traffic source is, right? Where are they coming from? I'm paying a lot for somebody to write content for me, so I want to see my organic, right? Here in this case, we have looks like organic here. Usually you could hover over this stuff. Obviously you can't because it's a screen grab. Organic followed by paid, direct, paid, and referral. So there's a small chunk here for paid, and then you have your direct traffic and your organic search traffic, right? So for this particular use case, the majority of their traffic is coming from organic efforts, right? Okay, so how are your active users trending over time? So what this tells me is what's going on the surface layer with my traffic. And within 30 days, do I see a dip on Monday where it spikes up on Tuesday, etc.? So if you see any valleys or hills, that might tell you something as it pertains to your users. I typically will see B2B Monday through Friday, the hours of 9 to 5 on the East Coast. You'll see traffic spike up, but then after 5 o'clock on Friday, traffic jumps off a cliff and, no one's looking at your website again until Monday. So that tells me when to run ads, when should I send out an email campaign, etc. How how well do you retain users? So this tells me how well I'm retaining users over time with repeat visits, right? So by week 4, they've gotten a little cold, right? No one's really visiting my website anymore. So that tells me maybe I need to send out a nurture email by week 4 or week 3, end of week 3. Maybe I need to do a remarketing campaign by week 3. So this data, once you start to understand it, you could start to make informed decisions about how to position your marketing strategy overall. Okay, users by time and day. So here we see a little bit of an anomaly, right? I see a lot of traffic, 8 a.m., 10 a.m. on Tuesday. It looks like noon on Tuesday. So being that I'm getting a spike in traffic, why am I getting that spike in traffic? Did 8 a.m. on Wednesday, I sent out an email or something to that degree? It could correlate directly with your marketing efforts, or it could correlate with something that you've done in PR or something someone has done ancillary. Maybe it was a referral link went out or something to that degree. Or it could be something, again, that's some kind of anomaly or something. So it's something to figure out and try to understand. If you're getting a lot of traffic at a certain time, that means that's going to help you figure out when it's time to send out an email, right? Right here, Wednesday at 8 a.m. If I see that consistently throughout a couple weeks or a couple months span, I know that's a good baseline for me to do something from a marketing standpoint. Or if I see like 4 p.m. on Saturday, there's a little bit of a hole and I'm e-commerce and I want to get consistent sales throughout the weeks, right? Every day of the week, then maybe I'm seeing that there's a little gap in my marketing play. I'm being a little lazy on Saturday. I'm not sending out retention emails. So that might be a good time to do that. So again, you have to understand, your business to a degree and what the needs of the consumer are and what their life cycle looks like as it relates to your business specifically. Here we have sessions by country. So for me, this is an important piece of data because I want to know if users are coming from outside the US, because I only ship to the continental United States, right? So I want to see my users come into America only. If they're coming in from other places, if I see India, somewhere in Bangladesh or something like that, or where the majority of my users are, I could have a spam problem, right? Where I'm getting a lot of spam form submissions. And I'm getting a lot of, you guys have seen them before, a lot of blanket sales messages. Or there could be something else going on, something else at play. Maybe I don't have my pay-per-click strategy set up properly, or maybe I'm pointing things elsewhere. Maybe I have a bad email list. So it's important to, again, know what you're doing from a streamlined marketing strategy, but knowing where you want your users relatively to come from is important. And you could dive into this a little further. I could click on United States and see by region, which I'm going to show you again momentarily when we look at the real-time dashboard. But if, for example, I use the emergency response plumber, right? I'm an emergency response plumber located in Hauppauge, New York, right? I'm only dealing with, a couple townships or so, right? Or Suffolk County in general. If that's the case, then I'm only dealing in Suffolk County, right? Or I'm dealing from, let's say, where does it start? Lindenhurst to Riverhead, right? I don't deal with the Forks. If that's the case, then if I'm getting a lot of traffic from Brooklyn, then, I know I'm doing something a little off here and I want to figure out why and try to diagnose that problem. So you could get pretty granular with the region. Sessions by device. So this is important again, for various reasons, whether I'm a B2B or B2C, the site speed overall, maybe this correlates to the bounce rate. If I see here, you could obviously tell this is probably a business to business, right? But if I am I'm looking at it on a mobile device, most of my users are coming on a mobile device because I'm an e-commerce website. If I see my bounce rate is up tremendously, there's got to be a correlation between the CRO or the design of my website and the site speed versus my overall mobile traffic. So again, all this stuff, you could start to make correlations to stuff and try to diagnose some problems. As a digital marketer, I always say we're storytellers and problem solvers, right? So I'm looking at this to help me. I'm using the data to help me solve my problem. Okay, what pages do users visit? Now, we talked about this before, earlier on in my presentation here. So this is what pages the users are visiting on average. So if you ever see / right over here, that's the home page. So there's no / in the slug or the URL. Then you have the contact us. That's number 2 here. We see, so people are getting to my goal completion, right? Where I have a goal completion on the contact us page. So being that that's number 2, great. Now, remember a couple weeks back when we were talking about CRO and web design, I said you need to look at your top 10 pages and make sure there's a goal completion on every website. So in this case, being that it is not an e-commerce website, this is a form completion, fill out a form, contact us today type of website. Being that those are their goals, I want to make sure all these top 10 pages have a goal completion on them, which would be a form submission, at least one, preferably multiple, a long form and a short form. Because again, we talked about what's called form fatigue, right? When there's too many fields. So that being said, you got to make sure that you have goal completions on all these pages. If you consistently see that these are the top 10 pages, then that's definitely something. If you are finding that you're not having users convert, they're getting paid 3 pages deep on your website, they're going to the home page, they're clicking on About Us, then they're clicking on Contact Us. You find they're filling out a form. They're finding a path to conversion, right? But we want the least path of resistance here. So if on that first page, the home page, we don't have a goal completion, we're kind of failing a little bit. So we want to make sure again that we're looking at this and we're giving the user the path of least resistance to convert into a potential client or prospect. Goal completions. This tells me how many forms were filled out in this case. Yeah, again, we have multiple goals here. You'll see these are different goals here, what we call them. Repeat phone call. If they've called a couple times, they've clicked on the sidebar, they've visited 10 plus pages or 5 plus pages. To us, that makes them highly interested in our services. This particular client is pretty unique in their industry. What they do, they sell some pretty niche stuff. So if they're 10 pages deep, this stuff reads a little like stereo equipment. So it's so that's a good sign. And they're spending over 10 minutes on the page. That's amazing. But you click here and then see who's converting, how they're converting. If I spent 10 minutes on a page, I didn't convert. Why? There's some secondary traffic things we could do. There's heat mapping. There's some things where we can record the screen of users. We could get pretty deep water with this stuff. But for these purposes, as I'm talking about surface layer level data, you'll be able to click and see at least their path where they went and came from. Okay. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive, and I'm going to speed through this because I want to look at the analytics. And again, the main part of this is to hear your problems and concerns. Okay, so diving in deeper, you can now click on different dashboards to get different layers, right? So here, I want to know a little bit more about my traffic, where it's come from, the sources. So here, this tells me, spits out where the traffic is. I define it by different time periods, right? So I think this is month over month here. So here I have different traffic patterns. So direct, organic, referral, email, social, and other. Other could be a bunch of things. It's usually grouped in some things. Sometimes I find that if your email tracking is not set up, which is as common, they have what's called a UTM code in the URL that will help me hit the proper tracking that will attribute it to email or whatever source you have. If this isn't done correctly, I find a lot of times it will just go in the other section. The same thing with social media marketing. If you're running an ad and you're not setting up the tracking right, you'll see it's in other, and then you can't figure out where the traffic came from, which is a huge miss if you're spending money to run a campaign. So again, make sure all your stuff is set up properly, and you're starting to see why that's important overall. Okay, so this tells you your traffic by sessions and users, which we talked about. You guys should be pros now. The traffic drivers, who's driving the most traffic, right? The total visits to the site overall, unique users. So it looks like a little bit, almost half. So it looks like almost all my users visited the site twice. That's not 100% true, but it looks like we have double the users are coming to my site multiple times versus the ones visiting. New visitors, 51%, as I said. So there you go. Form completions. This tells me from what source am I getting goal completions, right? So Google organic, I'm getting 5. The direct or none, which again, some of this stuff is mixed into other. You got 10. But again, that could be a miss if something's not getting set up properly. The bb.org, which is a referral, that's the Better Business Bureau. They got a lead. This one's from an email, and then you have Yahoo Organic. Again, Google will track other search engines as well, as long as you have that set up properly. Google, MSN, and Bing, top 3. Again, if you are a business, you're working B2B, MSN and Bing might be something that's worthwhile for you to spend more time on versus if you are direct-to-consumer sales or you're direct-to-consumer lead gen. Just because you might have people on business machines using Bing, et cetera, as their primary search engine. Landing pages, and these tell me the landing pages, how many page views, how much they've spent on it. So let's see if we can look at this. it looks like people spent 1 minute and 25 seconds on the About Us page, which is really good. So I must have a chunky piece of information there, and people are filling out forms because I saw it was converting previously. So that's a well-perceived page, and I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, now this is your overview of all of your goal completions. And again, as I said, it's important to set up your goals right. Here I have a couple of different goals. This is from my contact goal 1 completion. So this is my form submission, right? This client in general has multiple forms for different landing pages, right? But our general form is the one that's on, our top 10 pages, right? So the contact us form submission, goal 1, I had 271 users fill out the form. The contact us here conversion rate is 2.37%. So 2%, I usually round up or down depending. The contact us form submission rate. Okay, so here you can see where it's trending when users are likely to fill out forms. So here I'm noticing in April, and you could get more granular with this here. I have it on the month, but you could do hour, day, and week. And you could start to really ping into when users are visiting your site, but also here you could figure out when they're likely to fill out a form. I have a client who's specific to in the B2B arena, who does sales and technology, and his concern is when are users likely to fill out forms on the website. We found Thursday between 2 to 4 p.m. is the most likely time for somebody to do that. So that's a good time to send out a follow-up email, right? Right before maybe 2 o'clock, send out a follow-up email on Thursday. Hey, remember us? So this again starts to tell you a story and helps you spin a yarn in terms of digital marketing and what to do and how to do it. Builds your roadmap overall. Okay, audience overview. Audience overview, you could see, again, I have a comparison. I have this year versus last year. All of my clients, I try not to compare last year too. Obviously, we had a big life-changing event happen last year that threw us for a loop, and we're still dealing with that. So it's not apples to apples, right? I'll actually compare 2019 to 2021. However, here for the sake of all intents and purposes, I compared year over year. So you see that there's an increased spike this year versus last year. So we're on pace to outperform last year, which you always want to see that year over year. Users, this is all green. Everything is up. This is solid. Users page views, the bounce rate is down. When you see it's green, this one will trick you a little bit. If it's minus, that means it's good. If it's positive, it's red, that's bad. Your sessions, all the stuff we talked about is all here again, so you understand this. This is just about your traffic overview. Your new versus returning visitors, I think this is rather healthy. So everything to me is looking good here. Okay, your channels, we talked about channels. I want to dive into this a little further when we're clicking around, but here are your channels. So you have your organic page, direct, referral, social. You'll see where users are coming from. Our goal 1, our goal, and our contact us goal 1. So this is the total value. There is no e-commerce value because it is not a e-commerce website. It's a contact form website. So there'll be no real value there. But if you're an e-commerce website, that might be something you're looking at by landing page and by source medium, which is over here, or channel. So this will give you an idea of where your users are coming from. Again, I see organic at the top of the heap. They are 44% of my traffic is coming from organic, it looks like, for the year to date. Let's see. New users, I'm acquiring the most new users from organic. They are the most sessions. The bounce rate is low. It's not too bad. I would like to improve on that slightly, but it's not too bad. Pages per session, they're visiting the most pages. Oh, no, that's not true. You have referral here. They're visiting a lot of pages. So it's the second most. This other, I don't know that. I would diagnose that because something to that seems off to me. That could be the other medium could be something that's happening in-house. So you want to make sure also you are getting the IP addresses of everybody that might visit the website that works for you, and you scrub out them from the data pool. Otherwise, you have a polluted data pool. So me, for example, I know I'm going to activewebgroup.com about 100 times a day just to check on things, make changes to the website, etc. So I want to make sure I'm scrubbed out of that data, right? Because I'm not going to get true data if I'm always visiting the website. Oh, I got someone's on the website for 4 hours a day and they visited 50 pages. that's going to excite me, but that might not be true data if you have a lot of employees or a lot of internal things in the works. So get IP addresses and scrub that stuff out. And that's what I perceive to be the anomaly there. But again, everything's looking good here. Google Ads, I'm going to rush through this, but Google Ads has its own dashboard as well that integrates with Google Analytics. Again, you want to make sure all your goals are set up properly, but again, it works the same way. Let's just recap here. You have your general display ads. These are the ones that are in search. As I said in prior, when we were talking, I believe last week, right before Thanksgiving, we were talking about SEO and ads. A lot of times I'll have a client that will come to me and they'll want to rank for something that they need to show up for now, but they don't rank for it organically yet because it's a long crawl to do that. We want to get all of our traffic organically. That's the best thing we possibly could do because we're not paying for a click. We're not paying to acquire users. It's just that grunt work and time of getting it done. So a lot of times you're paying in-house, you're paying a digital marketing team or experts like myself. But either way, if I'm not ranking for that, but I need to show up now because I sell Christmas ornaments, for example, then I might want to run an ad, right, to show up against my competition. If I'm doing that, the first thing I usually recommend is a general display ad because a lot of people do search. So this is your best bet in terms of ads. There are keyword groupings that has to be done. There is copy for the ad that has to be set up properly. You have to know which keywords to attack based on cost per click, what time of day they show up, and you have to keep messing around with that. It's a game of chess. You don't set it and forget it, which is the biggest mistake that I see, or you don't hit auto drive, like you're driving a Tesla or something. You don't do that because Google's going to want to spend the most amount of money possible, right? Because it goes right back in their pockets. So don't trust it. Make sure you're looking at it. You don't leave the boiled pot of water unattended on the stove. Make sure you're looking at it granularly and you're making strategic changes to it as traffic trends change. Again, this shows you it in the search. So here is your ad. Then we're ranking #1 organically for it. A lot of times I'll see we're ranking #1 for it, but around our time of year, let's say Christmas audience, for example, we're getting pushed all the way down to the bottom, even though we're ranking #1 for it, because all of our competitors showed up for ads, and your user is going to click on 1, 2, or 3, whatever is showing up. A lot of them aren't cognizant of the ad, so they'll click on it. So being ready for that, but also you have to filter out bot traffic. You have to be cognizant of that. There are a lot of tricks here to overcome a lot of obstacles when you're doing it. This is a digital display ad. This could be a remarketing position as well. So these are the ads you see on websites, third-party websites. This could be your AdSense. But these are the visual ads you'll see, and they come in about 12 to 15, I think, various sizes. So you need a designer to make sure they're setting up the ads to be responsive, for the various ad sizes. They have little long rectangular ones, little square ones like we're seeing here, little things that are postage stamps. And I wouldn't design them all the same because you're not going to be able to fit as much information into like 100 by 100 pixel square as you are going to be able to in like a 750 by 800, banner or whatever. So be cognizant of your spatial relationships as it relates to graphic design, but make sure your message is clear, concise, consistent, short. You don't want to say too much. You want to get straight to the point, catch people's eyes, and get them to click through. In terms of remarketing, these people have already engaged with your website or your brand. So this is their second pass through. This is a reminder. I recommend this for a lot of positions. If you're somebody who has a long lead time, let's say you're a B2B, and you have a long lead time, you're an accountant, but you don't really deal with people till tax season. It's really good to show up consistently throughout the year, whether it be in people's inbox, whether it be via remarketing. Just because they're not looking to buy now, they're going to buy eventually. It's why your real estate agent's always harassing you to sell your house, because at some point you're going to sell your house, right? So keep that in mind as you paint the picture of your digital marketing play. Again, if you're somebody that has seasons, you have seasonality, you still want to be consistent in your approach throughout the year. That's why I like remarketing positions. However, it's not the predominant thing I always recommend. It's like the cherry on the sundae. Here is the shopping ads. If you're e-commerce, if you're not doing Google Shopping, there's a freemium version, which is more SEO. Brook-esque in its approach, but these are the paid positions. If you're not doing a shopping feed position and you're an e-commerce site that sells nationally, you might have a missed opportunity there. It's set up a little differently than you would go in the back end and set up your ads. However, there's a lot of commonality there in what you do and how you go about it. This will be your dashboard, an example of your dashboard here in Google Ads. So this tells you your clicks, your impressions, your conversion rate, which that's a pretty solid e-commerce conversion rate, your click-through rate. So this will tell you the changes in the last couple of days, how many users you get, or phone. Here I'm tracking phone calls, but you'd have that caret. You click down on the caret. That could be phone calls, email clicks, form submissions. So you have multiple goals that you have set up. Make sure that's done properly because no two goals are created equal. This will give you your optimization score. Very solid optimization score that Google's gave us. Pat on the back there. And then you look at your campaigns overall. So you have different campaigns based on your targeted keyword groupings. And then these are your conversion tracking statuses. This is your overview, your ads. Again, I blocked out a lot here, but you have your different ads you have set up in the search. So these are your search ads that show up directly on the Google when you're searching. And then you have long and short tail keywords, just like you would have in SEO, but you also have keyword groups. So you could have the word soft plus drink, or soft soda, or Coca-Cola drink. You know, you have different variations of it. So you're maximizing your chance of conversion again. The campaign overview here will tell you about the overviews of your campaign. You set your budget in place. Then this will tell you quickly in the quick overview each campaign how it's doing. So how many clicks, the impressions you're getting, how many people are seeing it when they search, but they're not clicking on it in the SERPs, in the search engines. Your click-through rate. Here, for example, we see this one's doing rather well, but it only has 11 clicks. And then it tells you your CPC. Obviously, this one, because it has the least amount of clicks, but it has a really good click-through rate, has a high cost per click. And I've seen cost per clicks anywhere from 50 cents to, you know, a lot of dollars. It just depends on the time of year. It depends on a lot of varying factors, how difficult the keyword is overall, or the keyword group subset. So there may be a unique opportunity or a hole where you can get in and find keyword that your competition isn't really bidding on, or they're bidding on, but you know, they're not 100% there. They have a small spend, and you could get in, bid on it heavy, and get some clicks and some conversions. Whereas if you're trying to rank for soft drinks, I think I used Christmas ornaments as an earlier example, it's going to be a little tricky, an uphill battle, and you're going to spend a lot, you know, to get a conversion. And this is where understanding your ROI, or your return on investment, comes in. I know that my margins are 30% of my product. I have a 60% return on it. How much can I afford to spend on a conversion? If, you know, round math, it's $100. I have $60 to play with. You know, I know I have some overhead there. I got some varying factors, but let's say, okay, I want to take 20% of that, or $20 I can afford to spend on a click or a conversion. That's going to help you start to build a profile for how much you can afford to spend on a click. These are facts you want to know before you get to task on this. Your ad groups. So again, we talked about ad groups. I'm not going to dive too deep in here, but there are various groups you would set up within your ad subsets. Your keyword overview. So this tells you the keywords within those subsets where they're clicking on. I'm speeding through this on purpose because a lot of this is, you know, we're getting into some deep water stuff, but I just want to show you what those dashboards look like as you click in. Now I'm going to go and dive into analytics itself. I want to quickly show you this account here. This is a dummy account that I set up just for these purposes. So none of this data is going to mean anything. So when you see 3 users, don't get alarmed. But this is your general dashboard here. In this case, I'm looking at the users here, the audience overview. You click on the audience overview, you could get active users. So this tells me who's on the page right now. Interest, demographic. We talked about the demographic. The overview, you get age, depending on what Google knows about you. Your acquisition, which is important. We looked at that, which is your the channels that they're visiting. Again, there's not a whole lot of traffic here. This is just direct because you know, this is a dummy account that I set up. But you would see all your channels here. Then you look at it from a social perspective. We're not going to be able to see anything because there's no data for that. But you would go in and set this up. So you set up goals, as I said, on your website. Your behavior overall. So what's the user doing, depending on what's set up in your dashboard, your conversions, your goals. So goal 1, 2, 3, we talked about the various goals that are set up by URL or by overview goal. So yeah, that's how you set that up. Now to get a user, I get this a lot. In this little gear icon, if you need to add a user, you do that here. So account user management, I could go and set up a user there, or I could add a user if I needed to. Let's say I have someone assisting me working on the website. I get asked this a lot when we're working directly with clients. As we get set up, we walk them through the process of adding different levels of access to the account. Okay, so I've gone through I've gone through now a little bit of analytics, and I know it's a lot. It's a very heavy topic. I gave you some surface layer data, what to look for. Now I'd like to open it up to you guys and see if anyone had any questions or concerns for me regarding their website in general or their digital marketing efforts. I know we've talked back and forth about some of this stuff, so please let me open it up to you guys and see what you guys have. Okay, I see some of it. How can I develop my skills on analytics best? What subjects or software should I learn? So it just depends on what you want to know. I just want to give you, in part, the knowledge on what you should be looking at, the vernacular. The most important thing you could do is understand the vernacular of it. The words I'm saying, sessions, goals, users, all that stuff. Make sure you understand that stuff. It's pretty straightforward once you do. Then from there, you don't have to get so deep water in setting up analytics and goals and all that. If you do, there's plenty of, long tail tutorials. Again, you could always have a professional do it. Not what I'm here for, but you always could do that. But for you, the most important thing you can know is understanding the vocabulary here. This way, this way, when you're looking at data over time, whatever it be, let's say Shopify, they have their own data set. Again, I don't always trust that stuff, but they have their own data set. And you're looking at that. They're going to use a lot of the same terminology. So that will help you a little bit.
Even if you're going to hire a professional like you, it's important to go into the meeting knowing what some of these things mean, what the terms are. That's super important. Let's get some other questions, guys. We have Frank here to answer stuff. So
can Google Analytics track sites or any sites promoted through Google? I'm going to need a better example of that. Can Google Analytics track any random sites? So the answer to that is kind of no. So if I wanted to track a competitor on Google Analytics, that's not the tool to use that. There is software that I can use to, most of it's paid. It's like having a crazy DeWalt miter saw. Some of these tools are my DeWalt miter saw. But there are tools that that out there available where you can track what your competitors are ranking for. What I do, we talked about this in the SEO meeting, but I look at my competitor rank report. I look at some other metrics and observations, and that kind of starts to steer me in a direction. I'm looking at the analytics on my site over time, and then I'm starting to make decisions. Okay, for a boutique agency, boutique ad agency. Okay, we would need to use these analytics for both our website and clients. Okay, so the first thing I'll say here is if you're a boutique ad agency, a lot of this you should already kind of know. I don't know what kind of agency you are. You could be a strictly creative firm where you're selling brand creative, which is fine. But if you don't know the ins and outs of that, of analytics and stuff, don't sell your clients on it. Really, I gotta say, really, because I get those clients, and they're a little worse for wear by the time they get to me. That they've, it's like they've been broken up with so many times that they're just very skeptical about the world. And especially in my small business clients, I really don't like to do that to them. Because their funds are limited, their capital is limited, their time is limited. They have a limited amount of time to get their business going. So be just if you regarding analytics and data, make sure you know it up and down. But analytics with clientele, you live and die by that. You live and die by the sword, so to speak. At the end of the day, if I'm selling a marketing services, whatever it is, I'm doing a social media ad. ROI, 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 return on investment is all they care about at the end of the day. So you want to, at the end of the day, be able to showcase that appropriately without any BS or any fluff. I see so much fluff out there where they just puff the numbers up for no reason. A good example would be your brand term, active web group. I should naturally be ranking for the term active web group. It's on my website 400 times. You know, it's not something I should report on. Or direct traffic. I'm giving you an overall that all traffic sources I saw 4,000 users came to the site in the month of March, but 3,200 of them came from direct, you know, which could have been something tangible. So being able to, this is why I have why I'm having this conversation, so everyone could understand the data and the metrics and all that. But in relationship to being a digital marketing agency or an ad agency, being able to showcase your metrics and what you've done and take pride in what you've done is going to be vital for your clients. For yourself, it should be too, to answer that question. You should know your competition, know what they rank for, know on the day-to-day. I know every single key term that my competition's ranking for versus my competition. And again, it's like the stock market, because we're just, you know, we're two dinosaurs, two T-Rexes just going head to head on this constantly. So it's always, I'm number one, they're number one, I'm number one, they're number one. So knowing that is going to be vital for you getting clientele as well. All right, what other questions do we have?
Is anything else? You know, I think the return on investment is a huge thing. You know, when you think about
Yes.
hiring a company to do this for you, you know, how do you know how much you should spend that the return on investment will be worth it? You know, it can be very expensive to hire somebody like you to do this. So, you know, what do you have to determine before you actually hire someone and start paying someone? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm being specific.
And that's a good question.
Yeah.
Got it. I saw that. That's a good question too. So I would say a lot of people get stuck. I have a lot of very small micro businesses just starting out where they just need put some gas in the tank. And then from there, they could kind of take it and learn, which there's no love lost there. I understand that. No relationships are forever. So helping them get set up with a lot of these things, I do. Then there's a lot of them that just need ongoing help, ongoing assistance. I do that as well. For me, what I say and I suggest with a lot of this is you have to look at what your ROI is. How much money do you have to spend if you're an e-commerce website? That should be the easiest thing to figure out. The gentleman who makes great tie-dye apparel and repurposed materials, you know, he knows how much those goods cost him to make from both the mechanical standpoint, him making them, which is time, and then how much it costs to acquire those garments. He knows what that is. So based on that, and you know what you're selling it for, you can figure out how much money you have to play with. I want to play with 25 to 35% of that budget.
Yeah, I always say 30% is like sort of a good thing, you know, good number.
Yeah, and then you bump it up certain times a year, like Black Friday. You can do that because you're selling in volume. But knowing what my margins are, knowing all that, will say to myself, okay, I have 35% budget to play with. So, and I know I'm selling about $5,000. I'm keeping, you know, small round numbers here, $5,000 worth of merchandise, right, a month. Based on that, then I know how much that I could afford to spend monthly on both a marketing strategist or a marketing team and ad spend budget. That should be combined. So you know how much that all is. And then, you know, someone like a senior digital marketing professional will know based on your budget where you should put your ducks. You know, if we only have $100 a month to spend, which is, you know, crazy low money. But if we only had $100 to spend, I'm not going to say, let's go run an ad campaign, because we're going to get 4 clicks and no conversions. So with that being said, you know, sometimes, especially with ads and things like that, it is helpful to get someone to kind of steer you in the right direction. But
it's great if there's a number, like, you know, if I'm looking at getting new windows, right? So I asked the person who's putting in the windows, how much is this going to save me in energy per year? You know, it'd be really nice if you could if there was some way of knowing how much money you spend is going to convert to, you know, if there's a number like that.
But that's fungible. That's fungible, that number. I mean, I have a 3-story Victorian house, right? My house is not going to be the same energy as my parents' cape, my small 2-bedroom cape, right? When they put in windows, it's not going to be. There's no two solutions that are the same. The same is true with digital marketing and ad spend. No two solutions are going to possibly be the same. The gentleman with the repurposed clothing, right? Versus Nike. Not even the same. They're nowhere near being the same thing. But I could be a digital marketer going to them just the same. So with that being said, you have to make sure you're looking at every single problem and finding a unique solution or a unique approach to it. That's going to be key here. But the things I explained over the past 4 weeks regarding the tips and tricks and tools, starting out with a great brand. Nothing ever starts out with a great story. So have a great story and tell it well. Knowing what to look for in terms of design, colors, typography, layout, your logo. Remember when we talked about having a logo that looks good on a billboard but also looks good on a postage stamp? Those things. Your website. Then we talked about websites, right? Making sure you have appropriate CTAs at the top of the website, when you scroll midway through the website, at the bottom of the website, on every page consistently, making sure you have all your goal tracking in place, making sure it's clean and concise for the user, making sure that it looks good on and runs fast on a mobile device, make sure all imagery is consistent and the typography is consistent across board on the website. Then when you get to digital marketing, we talked about last week, that's when you start to get to the fun stuff for me anyway. You start to get to SEO and you start to get to content writing. Again, you want to puff up your chest, have as many pages as possible so you can put in content. That content doesn't need to be nested. Don't put that in a drop down or fly out. Google's going to read everything left to right like a book. If there's something that's folded, a page that's folded, like you have a carrot with a drop down, an accordion menu, Google might not read that. Don't chance it. Don't waste your time on that stuff. Then from there, we just talked about tracking. So you put it all together, you track it, you see what you're doing, and then you analyze that data, you rinse and repeat. It's complicated, but it's also can be straightforward. Less is more. I always say, and this could be my last parting word here, less is more. If you're going to do something, do it 110%. Don't do 20 million things at 5%. And this is big for me in social media. And we didn't even talk about social media here.
Yeah, right.
Who think social media is a magic pill that let's go on Facebook or Instagram and then I'm going to get all the users. Organically, the answer is no, that's never going to happen, but it's a good retention tool. Probably a completely separate presentation. Anyone who's going to tell you that they're going to get all these users and they're going to convert them into sales strictly from organic social media alone, spending a couple $100 a month, that's not true. But it is something you want to do. Different time for that conversation.
Yes, I'd love to do a workshop like that. We're doing Google My Business tomorrow, by the way.
That's great. And Google My Business is important. I think I touched on that slightly in one of my topics here.
Yes,
but,
yes.
With the example here of social media, you want to make sure you're consistent across board. But when I have someone who comes to me and says, I want to do Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all this stuff, you're not doing one thing good. You're now going to do 10 things and expect it to be perfect and 100%. Stick to one thing, the most important thing that you know is going to drive revenue. From there, you can expand and grow your footprint. So I know that email marketing has a really good ROI. It's really simple for me to do. Start there. I know if I make some strategic changes to my website, start there. I know that if I start to write content for my website, I can then start to leverage that content on LinkedIn, for example, to start to reach out to headhunters and decision makers, etc. That's a good place to start. So starting somewhere, being consistent in your approach, regardless of what you do in life, be consistent about it. And that's.
Well, you know, the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
I'm sure elephants aren't tasty, but.
No. But that's what that's the saying, you know.
So be consistent in whatever you do, and go ahead.
If people want to reach out to you with specific questions,
sure.
Let's make sure that your email is available. That would be really great and helpful. And there's one other question I had. If somebody wanted to start and this was all like great information, but they want to be able to, read about more, is there some kind of book that you recommend, some kind of something that people can go to and start eating one bite at a time?
Yeah, sure. I always recommend, Googling. It's funny that I say that, but there's a lot of great tutorials out there to get you started if you get stuck in
On
the mud.
Google what? On
Uh,
Google? Just Google
just
it.
Google something
Google it.
if you have
Yes.
time. YouTube is a great resource for things. A lot of walkthroughs and
Yes.
tutorials. That'll give you some
Yes.
surface layer stuff. You're gonna want to get a little deep water. The goal eventually is to get in a position as a small business owner where you're not doing this. You don't want to be a digital marketing professional. You want to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. So anyone that's
True.
here in this conversation and like thinking they're gonna do that long term, get to a position where you have it going. You understand the terminology and things are running. From there, you're making sales, you're doing what you have to do, you're keeping the business up, and you need to grow it. That's when you need to grow your team so you can focus on the larger picture tasks. You're not sitting in the mud writing content for SEO every day. So get yourself to that point, and from there, then you need to hire out a team. But yeah, starting small, Google stuff, ask questions. You should all now know what questions to ask and how to ask them. How do I set up Google Analytics? How do I set up goals in Google Analytics? Some of it might be a little complex, but you take your time, you stay consistent, you can get through it.
Yeah, there are so many tools out there. It's hard to know where to start, but there are a lot of tools to help. And guys, you can call us, make an appointment, talk to Frank. He's available to answer questions.
Yeah.
And that's, you just got to start somewhere. It's very overwhelming. I know that I have my own little, I want to say business, but it's hardly a business, but it's more selling artwork online. And I'm always overwhelmed at all the things that I should be learning. And it's just starting somewhere, just doing the first thing really well, like you said. And it's growing it also from sometimes grassroots, just organically, letting your starting small, starting with some social media platforms, a pretty decent website. But like you said, it's very important to have an image, a brand, something that looks consistent, like you're a professional, and not just somebody out there trying to, drive people to a website that doesn't have a whole picture. So I don't know. I think that this was really wonderful. We'll definitely, touch base again, you and I, and see what else we can offer where you think we can plug some holes that people really have questions about. So if people would please respond to Leslie's email that you'll receive after this, she'll include a form that you can call, that she'll call you, I think, right, Les? If they fill out the form and email it back to you, Leslie will call you to make an appointment. We're always free, so you should absolutely do that. We have lots of resources. So please make an appointment, come in and talk to us. Get in touch with Frank. She'll include his contact information. If that's okay, this has been recorded if you want to, re-listen or view it. And if there's no more questions, then I guess we can sign off for today.